There's still no deal to settle Canada's biggest ever strike. That's the latest update from the Public Service Alliance. Tens of thousands of its members have been picketing at hundreds of locations across the country. The union president is accusing the federal government of delays and incompetence.
We still not have heard back yet from Treasury Board on a package that we gave them Thursday night, and this is Saturday afternoon.
Chris Aylward says the union sent what he describes as a comprehensive proposal on Thursday. He urged the Prime Minister to help move negotiations forward. The strike is now in its fourth day. Key issues include wages, job security, and working from home. CBC News has learned only 35% of union members actually took part in the vote on Labour action. And for those who did, about 80% back to strike. For more on this story, we're joined now by the CBC's Guy Kenville in Ottawa. So, Guy, thank you for joining us. We could hear frustration there in the union president's comments. How did his tone strike you?
Very defiant, very fiery, and it marked a contrast with what else you can see in downtown Ottawa today. You know, for the past 3 days, there was a visible picket line on the front steps of Parliament, a lot of colorful signs, people chanting music. That's not happening today because I've been told by the PSAC that there is no picketing happening on the weekend because most of their workers work Monday to Friday. But you go 2 blocks just south of that today, outside the Marriott Hotel, and Aylward, had some very strong words for both the Treasury Board president, Mona Fortier, and the Prime Minister. You know, he used the word incompetence to refer to Fortier. And when I asked him, that's a very strong word to use. Do you still hope to reach a fair deal when, reaching for that kind of tone? Here's what he had to say in response.
I'm telling you the facts. I'm standing here today, and I'm not going to, just fabricate things. This is a complete demonstration of the incompetence of this minister in this position to allow these negotiations to drag out this long. And it's not the union. It is the employer dragging out these negotiations. And again, it's through the incompetence of the president of Treasury Board.
Guy, I understand you just got comment from the Treasury Board in response to the remarks from the union president. What is the Treasury Board saying?
Yeah, hot off the press here on my phone. Not going to make for the most exciting live TV here, but let me read you an email here from the Treasury Board. They say that since the start of negotiations, they've made numerous proposals to the PSAC and have had very little movement from them. So again, it's a war of words here today. The PSAC saying it's the Treasury Board that's responsible for the glacial pace of negotiations, their words, whereas we have the Treasury Board saying, no, wait, it's the union that hasn't meaningfully engaged at the table. And in addition to that, they tell me here that just over the past couple of days, the PSAC has not been respondent to the Treasury Board. So very much 2 different messages coming from both camps. Interesting to see what happens as, day 5 looms ahead.
Generally speaking here, how important is the right to work from home for white-collar workers? Of course, not everyone has a job that would allow this. How important is it in today's labor market?
Well, it's something that we've certainly seen since the pandemic, that the sort of demands or expectations that come from employees who want to work from home has increased exponentially. They, generally have been saying, hey, it worked fine during the pandemic. Why shouldn't we have the right to continue to do so? And employers have said, look, traditionally, this has been a privilege. If we say it's okay to work from home this week or this particular day, it's because it works for our operations. But ordinarily, we're going to need you in the office. Then all of a sudden, it became the norm. And now there's this tug of war that's happening both in the unionized and non-unionized sectors, I would add. The difference is that unless it's enshrined in a collective agreement, no employee, whether you're union or non-union, has the right to say to their employer, hey, I'm going to do my work from home this week. I'll see you next week. And that's really what the issue is. The Alliance is attempting to ensure that some of those privileges are turned into rights.
When we're talking about this from the employee's point of view, what do you hear when you're talking to people about why they do think this should be a right and not just a privilege?
Again, it comes. I should say that these demands at the bargaining table happened pre-pandemic. So, as a negotiator, I heard many unions at the bargaining table saying, "We want to build this into the collective agreement." because basically you take the power out of the hands of management, you put the power in the hands of the employees. I mean, obviously, everybody would love to be able to dictate all sorts of aspects of how, where, when they do their jobs. This is just one more example of it. What we're hearing from employees is it worked fine during the pandemic. I have things I need to do at home. I've got childcare responsibilities. I've got to let the plumber in. I don't want to have to get stuck in traffic on my commute. I don't want to have to pay for commuting. And frankly, I can do my job just as well remotely as I can in the office. That's what we're hearing from the employees. What I represent employers, what employers are consistently saying is, look, we need collaboration. We need the synergies that happen when people are in the office together. We need to be able to see you, know what you're working on, be able to check in with you. And these are fundamental management rights that have existed for as long as work has happened. And the idea that you're going to, as an employer, hand over that right to an employee and let them determine where and when they work is problematic.
If the Public Service Alliance of Canada, so PSAC, if they are successful here and are able to negotiate something where it is enshrined or protected within the collective agreement, how do you see this playing out for future labor disputes when it comes to disputes involving different unions, different types of industries? How do you think this is going to play out nationally if they're successful here?
Yeah, the alliance, this alliance bargaining unit that's currently on strike is the largest in the federal public service. And they set precedent. They set precedent across the federal public service, certainly, and they would be it's a model for municipalities, for provincial bargaining units to follow. But look, it doesn't, just because they happen to make some gains in their collective agreement doesn't mean it's a domino effect where you're suddenly going to see this become ubiquitous across the other sectors. That's not how it works, but it matters. There's no question that every time you're at a bargaining table, a union is holding up another collective agreement from somewhere else and saying, look, they got it. Why can't we have it? And so everybody's watching this, it's fair to say, very carefully.
Watching it very carefully, and when it comes to whether or not this is going to be successful as well, if it is not successful, so on the other hand, do you think that this could lead to some sort of trend where employers more and more say, actually, nope, sorry, this is just a privilege, not a right, and you don't see employers granting work from home privileges quite as often? Yeah,
no, that's a trend that's already well established. I'm not aware. I mean, there's probably some collective agreements out there that provide that right for employees, but I'm not aware of any. Certainly, any of the collective agreements I deal with, employees can't tell their employer, hey, it's Tuesday. Tuesday's my day to work from home. It's set out in my collective agreement. Employers have always been steadfast in their resistance to that sort of thing, because maybe Tuesday is an important day. Maybe something happens and they need all their employees on deck, all hands on deck in the office. So to give that away is to give away a fundamental management right. So I would just say that if ultimately a deal is struck between the Alliance and Treasury Board, which does not include flexible work arrangements becoming a right rather than a privilege, it's just going to perpetuate the status quo that we've already seen for decades in this province and across the country.
Okay, Jacques, thank you. We're going to leave it there. We do appreciate your time, though, this afternoon.
My pleasure.
Jacques Lamy is a management side labor and employment lawyer. We reached him in Ottawa. Thank you.